I worked for RobTop, and he's a fraud. Here's what you need to know. Geometry Dash, as you know, is a game that has been around for over a decade. The simple gameplay, coupled with an endless cavalcade of user-made content, caters to a large audience, and has solidified GD as one of the greatest mobile games of all time. Of course, this would not have been possible without its one and only developer, Robert Topala, otherwise known as RobTop. Yes, this 12-year-old game is and always has had RobTop at the helm. He built all of the official levels, programmed many of the gameplay elements, and ultimately serves as the Geometry Dash mascot, minus Jeffrey, of course. Now, while it cannot be understated how much of a grinder Rob is, he's not alone. Over the years, he's received help from people like Viperin and all of his level moderators. The main bulk of the game may be his doing, but he's still willing to employ help. That's where I come in. I've always admired RobTop's work, as early as 4th grade in fact. I had never played a game at that scale programmed by a single individual. In a sense, he was an idol of mine, and I owe it to him for making the game which supports this channel. A little over a year ago, the channel was up on the shelf collecting dust, but I obviously found an incentive to continue through GD. Totally Real Geometry Dash Levels, the video that essentially kickstarted my career, features me creating fake level thumbnails. A simple concept that pretty much everyone latched onto. Apparently, so did RobTop, because he actually mentioned me in one of my Totally Real levels in a now deleted tweet on his Twitter. I was flabbergasted. How could RobTop of all people be impressed by a frankly amateur mock-up of a GD level? Intrigued, I reached out to RobTop over Discord. He expressed his enjoyment towards the video and asked me about my past experience with digital art. By then, I felt like I was being interviewed, and that I was. Rob told me that I showed potential and wanted to hire me onto his team. Again, I was flabbergasted. An opportunity to work for the president of Geometry Dash and impact the game was one I could not pass up. I gave him all my contact info, filled out some forms, and yeah, I started working for RobTop. For the next 6 months, Rob would task me with making textures and, more importantly, level thumbnail concepts. It wasn't a really grueling job, but I made sure to put all my skills to good use and produce some high quality art. I will say, most of my work for the game must remain confidential for legal reasons. I do have the rights to some of it, so I'll show it off once I get into the thick of this particularly complicated story. Now, I'm sure you can imagine how hands-on the game's development must have been for me. In reality, I wasn't really too involved. Quote-unquote work days just consisted of me in my bedroom on Pixlr. That's it. I wasn't even added to the GD developer Discord server. The most interaction I really got was Rob checking up on me every couple of days. Anytime I'd finish up on a creation, he'd have me send him the file, and it was never seen again. At the time, I presumed that these concepts were either planned to be added to the game in the future, or were shelved for later use. Whatever the case, I was getting paid for my work, so there's that. Then, I received a DM. A DM that would change everything. A user, who I'll refer to as Gene, messaged me asking if I was Prism GD. I simply responded, yes. They went on to tell me that they had been a moderator in RobTop's developer server for a couple of years, but were banned without warning. He asked Rob and some of the other mods why he was kicked out. No one responded. Gene then sent me some screenshots they got of a chat in the server, and wouldn't you know, they contained level thumbnails I had made. It didn't take long for me to notice that something was off, not just in the fact that my work was being spread around without my consent, but in the images themselves. Subtle changes were made to each of them. One of the level thumbnails initially read Glorious Morning, and the corresponding image read Glorious Pineapple. Okay, that's a little bizarre. What a weird little tweak. And the other 2 thumbnails contained equally off-putting changes of their own. I wanted to know why Gene leaked this. For the most part, it was out of spite for being banned, which is fair. Apparently other mods from this private server were also being picked off with no rhyme and reason. This was cause for action, but I didn't know how to proceed without getting myself laid off. Or worse. Maybe this was all just a misunderstanding. What if Gene was lying for the purpose of stirring up chaos? But I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe he was onto something. How would he have general knowledge of the level thumbnails I had made when I only showed them off to RobTop himself? How would other users have them? I had to dig deeper. I had to get into the server to see for myself. Sometime after the chat with Gene, I received a follow-up message from him with a username and password. He told me that this was the sign-in for the alt account he had in the server that the mods forgot to remove. This was my way in. But I had to consider that if I were to just start interacting out of nowhere, suspicion could arise. I wanted to draw as little attention to myself as possible while still extracting some info. Before I could get started with the spying, Gene told me not to remove the border on the account's profile picture. He didn't tell me why, just that it was very important. I mean, okay, surely that doesn't mean anything, right? Anywho, I knew I needed to enter the server to see what it was all about. So, I logged into the alt, found the server icon, and hit with the verification menu. I guess Gene never officially registered this account and only had it as a failsafe. At this point, I was getting a bit anxious. Imagine if it didn't let me verify. Fortunately, all it asked was to fill out a CAPTCHA and submit my name and age. If you could believe it, I didn't write out my real name and age. Wouldn't want to risk getting exposed, though this video's existence negates that concern. So, boom! I was in. Immediately, it was apparent that this server was nearly identical to the official Geometry Dash server. Similar channels, similar PFP, and upon checking the member log, I saw a bunch of familiar GD YouTubers. Yet, just like how my level thumbnails have been tweaked, all of the channels had odd renames. Heck, the members had server-exclusive names. Like, instead of GD : his name was GD Coleapple? Juniper? Nah, hers was Juna Pineapple. Over 200 members were in the server, every single one of them adopting this pineapple-themed naming style. I could feel myself sinking deeper into this rabbit hole, and I was digging it. I spent 10 minutes browsing all of the channels. Eventually, I came across one titled PP-Conversions. Not sure what that stands for. And what I found in this channel was more damning than anything that had come before. Dozens of my pieces, given the same treatment my others had been given, along with the plagiarized work of other creators. Why was this server made? How long has it existed? What's with all the food imagery? That's when I saw a voice chat. It was active. I couldn't tell how many members were on the call, but I knew that this was my shot, and I wasn't gonna throw it away. Hovering my cursor over the VC, I clicked it, and... Really? I don't have permissions? I was so close. Like, this close to chatting with these people. Is this the end of the line? Well, no. I asked Gene how I could weasel my way in. He informed me that interacting with the members in the chats, and possibly befriending them, is the best way to assimilate into the group and get perms for the VC. This would take a while, 3 days at least, but it was a chore I was willing to trudge through. I spent the next week talking with various members, trying to discern anything of value from our conversations. The only thing worth noting is some of these people's admiration of pizza. Don't get me wrong, I like pizza. Love it even. This was... a little much. Comparing the founding of Pizza Hut to the story of Noah's Ark is certainly a choice. The week passes by, and a mod recognizes my dedication to the server. She offers to give me more perms, which include access to the voice chat, so long as I didn't leak anything from it. Yes, just what I needed. I told her that I didn't have any screen recorder applications installed. You know, a complete lie. Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. If you thought I was nervous before, believe me, my anxiety was through the roof when someone asked me to join the VC. It's not like I wasn't prepared or anything. For the amount of time I poured into this, it would be foolish to just chicken out and not join that call. But what was on the other side? What dark secrets could these members be hiding? Why has RobTop obstructed my images for the server's benefit? What is going on? I'm met with a strange chant from everyone on call. Everyone was there. Everyone. The moderators, your favorite GD YouTubers, and the man himself. The chanting ensued, building in ferocity, passion. Couldn't make out the words. It was all gibberish. Or at least that's what I thought, before I saw the screen share. I'll advise you to proceed with caution, as what I'm about to unveil may be disturbing. You have been warned. On the shared screen was a gigantic slice of pizza, topped with pineapple. I couldn't believe my eyes. The mere sight of this abomination was enough to send me into a panic. Suddenly, it hit me. These people, who I would have never suspected to be a part of this agenda, were gathered here, in this call, worshipping the forbidden combo, chanting its name. It kept growing louder, faster, and showed absolutely no signs of stopping. And at the center of it all was RobTop, commanding his followers, beckoning them to chant louder. Of course, I could not participate in this heinous act, and that was my undoing. A member noticed that I wasn't speaking. My cover had been blown. I was kicked from the call and sent into an interrogation chamber. No, I'm not gonna go along with this. I closed the tab before a mod could question me, or worse. So there you have it. The beloved creator of Geometry Dash, RobTop, exposed for you all to see. He and hundreds of other players are part of a pineapple on pizza cult, and I am living proof that they want to spread their influence. Who knows how far the scheme would have gone had I not uncovered the truth. I hope that you can sleep well, knowing that RobTop is not who he says he is. But that's not all. I have found another piece of info regarding this mystery. Something that ties it all together and will change the way you perceive this video. Are you ready? It turns out that today's date is April 1st. April Fools!